Part 1. You will hear a woman calling a bank to ask for information about home loans and mortgage options. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Now listen and answer questions 1 to 6.
Good morning, Crescent Bank Mortgage Services. This is Daniel speaking. How can I help you today?
Hello, Daniel. My name's Sophie Turner. That's Turner. I'm calling to ask a few questions about home loans. I've just started looking at some properties, and I want to understand how your mortgage system works.
Sure, Sophie. Are you already one of our customers?
No, not yet. I have an account with Citibank at the moment, but a friend recommended yours because of your lower interest rates.
I see. Well, we do have a few different plans depending on whether you're a first-time buyer or not.
This will be my first property. I'm planning to buy a 2-bedroom flat in the suburbs, something not too far from the city center.
Great. And roughly what price range are you considering?
The one I liked most costs around £260,000, but I've also seen one slightly cheaper, about £245,000, though it's next to a main road, which worries me a bit because of the noise.
Yes, that's understandable. Now, our bank usually requires a 10% deposit for first-time buyers, so you need to pay that upfront.
Right, I think I can manage that. But how long could I take to pay off the rest?
The maximal term for our standard mortgage is 30 years, though some people prefer shorter ones like 20 or even 15 years to save on interest.
Okay, and what's the current interest rate?
It's 5% fixed for the first 5 years, and then it can vary slightly based on the market.
That sounds reasonable.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
Do you charge any kind of setup fee?
There's a £450 processing fee, but it's usually added to the loan amount rather than paid separately.
I see. And what about insurance? I heard that mortgage protection insurance is compulsory.
It isn't actually mandatory, but we strongly recommend it. Many customers choose our Home Shield insurance, which covers both the property and the borrower.
Good to know. And when could I apply if I decide to go ahead?
Applications are accepted Monday to Saturday, but appointments are only available until 3 p.m. on weekdays.
Right. That's fine. I work mornings, so an afternoon slot would suit me better anyway.
Excellent. Once your application is approved, you'll need to sign the agreement in person at our central branch. We don't post or email contracts for signature, just for security reasons.
That's good. I prefer handling such things face-to-face. Oh, and one last thing. I'll be driving there. Do you have parking?
Yes, we have parking, though most people don't notice it because the main sign faces the side street. The customer car park is just past the delivery entrance next to the staff area, and there's no charge for using it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Daniel. You've been very helpful.
You're welcome, Sophie. I hope to see you soon.
That is the end of part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 1. Part 2. You will hear a presentation explaining how an outdoor adventure park began. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 13. Now listen and answer questions 11 to 13.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really glad to be here today to talk about how MeadowQuest Adventure Park came into being. Most people think it all started when I visited one of those famous international theme parks, the ones with roller coasters and bright lights. That trip did leave an impression, but it wasn't the real reason behind our project. The idea built up slowly. My sister studied garden planning, I used to take photos of wild landscapes, and my wife worked as a hiking guide for school groups. What truly set things in motion, though, was a short visit we made to a small climbing center nearby. It was simple, even outdated, but it reminded me of building tree houses and exploring fields as a kid. That feeling of discovery became the heart of our plan. At first, we only opened the park occasionally. My parents were still running the dairy farm, and we had to help with the animals. Some people thought we stayed closed because of the unpredictable weather, but that wasn't it. We simply couldn't manage both the cows and the customers at once, so we opened only when farm duties were lighter, usually early spring and late autumn. Within a few years, word of mouth did more for us than any poster could. Our 5th anniversary brought us about 500,000 visitors, which already felt unbelievable. Now, over a decade later, the number's gone beyond 1.3 million, something none of us dreamed of.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 14 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 14 to 20.
In our family, everyone has a specific role. We realized early on that dividing the work was the only way to keep the park running smoothly. Each of us took on something we were already good at or eager to learn, and that's probably why the place still feels like a team effort rather than a business. Let me tell you who does what these days. I, Mark, deal with all the physical side of things, making sure structures like the rope towers and zipline frames stay strong and safe. That's a daily job, especially after storms. Hannah, my wife, handles how the park is presented to the public. She manages online promotions, local partnerships, and those big seasonal campaigns you might have seen on social media. Olivia, our daughter, looks after the animals. She studied veterinary care, so she knows how to handle everything from ponies to parrots. The visitors love her feeding sessions, and she's made our small animal zone one of the most popular areas. Ben, our son, keeps an eye on everything that moves. Literally. He's the one fixing ride motors, adjusting safety locks, and checking the little train engines each morning before the park opens. Laura, my sister, manages all the educational visits. She arranges field days for schools, designing activities that teach kids about teamwork and the environment. We couldn't do it alone, though. The part-time staff make a huge difference. Most are university students, and they rotate through different duties, welcoming visitors, running snack counters, and guiding families through our obstacle courses. Hannah supervises them, making sure everyone follows the safety code. Finally, visitors can now plan their trips using our new website system. It lets them select activity times and book lunch packages in advance. When we launched it, a few people booked the wrong day and got frustrated, but now it's saved everyone time and cut the long queues completely. Running MeadowQuest is exhausting sometimes, but seeing families laugh together out there makes every early morning worth it.
That is the end of Part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 2. Part 3. You will hear a conversation between a tutor and a student discussing plans for a research project on city temperatures. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen and answer questions 21 to 25.
So, Anna, I've read through your proposal for the dissertation. It looks quite ambitious, studying how urban expansion affects local climate zones, right?
Yes, exactly. I wanted to look at how new housing developments around Riverdale are changing temperature patterns, like the difference between the city center and nearby rural areas.
Good choice. But you've called it urban heating in your title. Have you considered using urban microclimate? It's a bit more precise.
I did, but I was worried it sounded too technical for general readers.
Fair point. Still, make sure you define the term early on. And about your data, how are you collecting it?
I'm using temperature sensors in 3 zones: central, suburban, and rural. I was planning to record every hour for 2 weeks, but I might reduce that.
I'd say don't. You'll get more reliable averages with longer monitoring. Are you using manual readings or automatic sensors?
Both, actually. The automated ones are on rooftops, but I'll do manual checks at ground level. It's time-consuming, but I want to compare surface and air temperature.
That's excellent. Though be careful about equipment errors. You mentioned borrowing sensors from the environmental lab, didn't you?
Yes, though they only had 4 available, so I'm hiring the rest from the engineering department.
All right. And for your maps, are you planning to use GIS software?
Yes, I've just started learning ArcView. It's complex, but I think it'll help show spatial patterns clearly.
Good. You could also overlay wind direction data. Sometimes small breezes can make microclimate differences seem bigger than they are.
Oh, that's clever. I hadn't thought of that. I could take the readings from the meteorological station near the bridge.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
Perfect. Now, about your literature review, I noticed you cited several American studies. Did you find anything from European research?
Not much in smaller towns. Most case studies are from large metropolitan areas. I might include one paper from Italy that compares urban and coastal regions, but the focus is slightly different.
That's fine. Just make sure you explain how their findings still relate to your work. And how are you structuring your discussion section?
I'll probably group them by factors, like land use, building material, and vegetation cover. That way it's easier to show which one affects temperature most strongly.
Sounds logical. For your conclusion, remember to propose practical solutions, not just describe the problem.
I was thinking of recommending tree planting in housing zones and using lighter materials for rooftops. Does that sound all right?
Yes, but keep it concise. You could even suggest involving local councils since they control construction policies.
That's a good point. I'll add that. By the way, do I need ethics approval for this?
Only if you're gathering personal information. Environmental readings don't require it.
Great. Oh, and about submission. Is the deadline still the 15th of next month?
Correct, but I'd aim to submit a draft a week earlier. That gives me time to give feedback.
Perfect. I'll plan for that then.
That is the end of Part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 3. Part 4. You will listen to a talk discussing the role of butterflies in ecosystems. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today's lecture focuses on a species often admired for its beauty, but rarely understood for its importance: butterflies. Now, we know them mainly as colorful garden visitors, yet their influence extends far beyond decoration. Butterflies form a vital part of the planet's ecosystems, acting as indicators of environmental health and participants in pollination networks. What makes butterflies unique is their sensitivity to even the smallest changes in their surroundings: a rise in temperature, a shift in rainfall, or a decrease in native plants. All these immediately affect their behavior and population. Because of this, scientists often refer to butterflies as bioindicators, meaning their presence or absence reflects the state of nature itself. Let's talk about their life cycle, which is remarkably complex for such small creatures. They begin as eggs, hatch into caterpillars, then transform through the chrysalis stage into winged adults. Each stage has distinct needs, and any disturbance, say pesticide use or habitat loss, can interrupt the entire life cycle. Aside from their symbolic value, butterflies play a surprisingly practical role. While they are not as efficient as bees, they contribute to pollination, particularly for plants with long, narrow flowers. Their ability to travel long distances allows them to spread pollen across wider areas, helping maintain genetic diversity in plant species. Their wings also serve more than an aesthetic purpose. The scales covering them help regulate body temperature, allowing butterflies to survive in both warm and cooler environments. Interestingly, those wings inspire engineers developing new heat-reflective materials for buildings and clothing. Now, when we consider food chains, butterflies might seem minor, but their larvae, or caterpillars, are essential sources of food for birds, small mammals, and even reptiles. Without them, many other species would struggle to survive. However, butterfly populations have declined sharply in the last 2 decades. The causes are several: extensive pesticide use, urbanization, and the removal of hedgerows. Even artificial lighting interferes with their navigation during night migration. The issue is particularly severe in tropical regions, where deforestation is rapidly destroying their breeding grounds. So what can be done? Conservation efforts now focus on creating wildflower corridors, strips of native vegetation that connect isolated habitats. These corridors not only support butterflies, but also other pollinators. Public awareness campaigns are another tool, encouraging homeowners to grow nectar-rich plants instead of sterile lawns. Some scientists are taking the initiative further by combining ecology and technology. They've developed a mapping system that uses satellite data to track butterfly movement. This helps predict population declines before they become critical, allowing conservation groups to act early. Ultimately, butterflies remind us of one key truth. When something so small and delicate begins to vanish, it's a signal that something much larger is going wrong. Protecting them means protecting the balance of the natural world, and that balance, once lost, is hard to rebuild. Their decline should therefore act as a wake-up call, not just for conservationists, but for industries and city planners as well. After all, urban gardens, roadside plants, and even balcony flowers can provide essential food sources for them. Each small effort connects to a wider chain of survival.
That is the end of part 4.